to the first in a series of virtual events with some really cool authors happening over the next several weeks, celebrating summertime and summer reading with public libraries. This is brought to you by Baker and Taylor and publishers like Penguin Random House, who helped bring our very special guest authors today. So thank you, Penguin Random House, all the wonderful public libraries out there and their patrons tuning in. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I am so psyched. My name is Bobby, and I am representing Baker and Taylor and Cats today. So I have the pleasure of introducing two best-selling authors and who I'm learning all around lovely people and super cute couple, Nicola and David Yoon. Nicola is the best-selling author of Everything, Everything. The Sun is Also a Star. And now, Instructions for Dancing. Got these from my local public library. and she is also the co-author of Blackout. She is a National Book Award finalist, a Michael L. Prince Honor Book recipient, a Coretta Scott King New Talent Award winner, and the first Black woman to hit the #1 on the New York Times Young Adult Bestseller list. She is also a member of the We Need Diverse Books team. And David Yoon is the author of Frankly in Love and Super Fake Love Song. Best-selling author, I should say, of those two books, which I read on my Kindle, so that's why I have that printed out there. And soon for the adult audience, Version Zero and City of Orange. He's a William C. Morris Award finalist and an Asian Pacific American Award for Young Adult Literature Honor Book recipient. Together, Nicola and David Yoon are the co-publishers of Joy Revolution, a Random House young adult imprint dedicated to love stories starring people of color. The first books from this imprint are expected in 2022, and we'll be hearing a little bit about that today, in addition to learning about their latest books, and we're even going to hear them read from them as well. So Nicola and David, thank you so very much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yay!
Thank you for having
your
us.
bookshelf, by the way.
Okay, everyone always loves these. It's IKEA smashed together.
Really?
So it looks really fancy, but it is not.
I love all the colors, love your hair, love all of it. For those out there tuning in, we encourage questions. We're going to field them later on. But we're going to start with some that we already have here. Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes of all time is about summer anyway, is if June night could talk, it would boast it invented romance. It is the last day of June. This event is a kickoff for many libraries around the country for their summer reading programs. Your books couldn't be more apropos for this time of year. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your venture into writing YA romance and any books or characters that you love in the genre.
Ooh, do you want to start? You want me to start?
Our journey into YA romance. Well, I mean, I don't know. I can start really quick.
But first we should say thank you for having us. We're thrilled to be here. I really love talking to libraries. We obviously love talking about our books. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
You don't get to hang out in a room full of people who love books as much as we do very often.
Yeah.
So it's always nice. But yeah, I mean, I got into a young adult romance partly because of her, because she got there first. but we both are.
And I was like, come on in, the water's fine.
And we're both huge romantic goobers, and we also really vividly remember what it was like to be in high school. And maybe in some ways we still are. So yeah, it's such an exciting time of life because it's the first time you're really seriously trying to figure out who you are as a person, apart from your family and your friends. And yeah, I mean, I feel like we're still doing that ongoing, even though we're not teenagers anymore.
Right. I mean, I think that what David said is right. I mean, when you're 16 or 17, you are you're so philosophical, right? Like, I mean, and even if you don't put that word to it, really what you're doing is asking big questions about life, right? And like your place in the world, who you want to be, what kind of changes you want to make, and you're just trying to figure things out. And I think David and I are like this anyway.
We
Like,
still do that.
like we are so the annoying people at the dinner table, like at a dinner party going, but what does it really mean? And like, we're very earnest, and that is just how we are. And I think so both of our personalities sort of match naturally with teenagers who are just like that by virtue of being 17, right? And I am absolutely a romantic goober, and I believe that love is transcendent. And especially a big love can change you and make you know yourself better, which is one of the things I like to talk about, like, you know, sort of in conversation with teenagers about, like, you know, you have to love yourself before you can love someone else, right? I think part of falling in love is falling in love with yourself a little bit. And so I think that we're both just naturally inclined to, you know, talk about love and be philosophical about it.
So definitely something that every young person and person in general needs to be reminded. Everyone's their own villain and their own hero, right?
Yes, that is true.
That's what you write in your book anyway. So very, very good. And as a follow-up to this, can you speak a little bit about your forthcoming imprint, Joy Revolution, and how that kind of, it sounds like you obviously have a lot of inspiration. But can you talk a little bit more about that?
I mean, we met in grad school in 1846, and we both quickly figured out that we're romantic goobers, and we love rom-coms and we love romantic stories. And we also pretty quickly shared that, like, we were never in these stories.
Or people that look like us. We're always, go ahead.
People of color were never in these stories. And so for years, we're working our day jobs and we're writing in the mornings, and we would toss around ideas about, like, maybe starting a little contest for people of color to write love stories, because so many stories out there about featuring people of color is about the struggle, which is important, because if we forget the struggle, then that's not a good thing. So we need to remember that. But the other side of the story was not being told about POC just being human and having friends and having fun.
A little bit of joy. Yeah.
He's a star.
We were hugely inspired by Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. Seriously,
my teenagedom.
Dude,
mine too.
You got this Korean American dude, Indian American dude. All they want to do is get high and get burgers, and it was a revelation.
It's my entire college experience.
So we're like, how do we get here? So finally, after she got published and then I got published, we're in a good position to just give it a shot. So then she proposed to you go.
Right. So the origin story for Joy Revolution is, so it's a young adult imprint at Random House Children's Books. And the goal is to publish big, spoony love stories about people of color, written by people of color. And, you know, I pitched it to Barbara Marcus, who's the head of Random House Children's Books, the beginning of last summer. And, you know, she's a mentor to me, like, she's just wonderful. She's an amazing woman. And we've been talking for years about, like, you know, what I want to do, like what kind of changes would I like to see. And so finally I came to this, you know, after Dave and I talked about it, I came to this idea and I pitched it to her, and she's like, interesting. And Barbara's like, you can't tell sometimes what she's thinking. And she's like, interesting. She's like, write me something up. And I was like, okay, Barbara. So then I wrote her like a little, you know, basically a passion letter.
We wrote a whole pitch thing, a pitch document.
And then I, like, you know, sent it to her, and then I heard nothing, like nothing. And then 3 weeks went by, and then she wrote back, it's 2 cents, and she's like, this is a great idea, let's do it.
Total CEO email, you know, just like, let's do this. I love it.
So then I went screaming through the house. David thought I had died or was dying or something. But now we get to, you know, read and tell these stories. Love is transcendent, right? And everyone feels it. And everything is not pain for people of color. It's just, it isn't true, right? I don't wake up thinking about the struggle. I wake up begging him for coffee, basically. Honey, please make me some coffee. And our little girl rolls into bed with us.
And if you, like, we want to really expand the idea of, this sounds super weird to say, but like the idea of people of color, and just to depict the full breadth of their humanity. You know, like, not only just struggling and feeling pain, but horsing around and going to get burgers late at night and falling in love and
You
making
know, like
mistakes.
everyone, right? I
Pure,
mean, like, that's
pure
the thing.
representation. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, totally.
absolutely. Like, I mean, it's just, you know, people of color are not aliens, right? Like, it's just not.
Yeah.
And honestly, one of the goals in my life is to never have to talk about diversity again because everything's fixed, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But-
So that's what would be ideal.
Yeah, and we're really fortunate because we are a boutique imprint, but behind us is the entire machinery of Delacorte and Random House, and with their full support, and they're really excited about it. We've already gotten a bunch of manuscripts in, it's a testament to how many stories there are out there that need to be told.
Yeah.
And some of these stories are excellent, and we've already signed on, what's 3?
Yeah. Well, 2 we can announce.
2 we can announce, yeah. Another one that we can't yet.
Yeah.
And then we're working on some other ones, and it's super exciting to
It's
see
thrilling.
how many stories there are out there and the quality of these stories.
Yeah.
And once they're out in the world, it's just a beautiful time. Like up until maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it wasn't like this. And so it's really, really recent. And we hope it continues. We hope we can make it continue.
I got goosebumps. And I know there's a lot of viewers out there that are so eager to read all these books. One of them, eager to write them and send them in. I'm glad that, I'm not surprised that, but I'm glad Random House, you know, said, let's do it. And Barbara's very supportive. I'm not surprised. But
Yeah, Barbara's the best.
I'm very,
She
very
really is
glad.
awesome. Yeah.
Oh, how exciting. All right, and so those 2 that you can announce, would you like to? When can we
Sure.
when can we expect them?
So we have 2 for fall 2022. And the first is Talia Hibbert. So I don't know if you know her adult romance. She's a British author. So she's writing a YA for us. And then we have
She did the Brown Sisters series,
the
right?
Brown Sister series.
And then we have Amelie Howard. She's writing something called Queen Bee, which is it's a bodice ripper Bridgerton style story that is full of intrigue and revenge and
oh my God,
beautiful dresses
big,
and-
fabulous, and
yeah.
fabulous teacups. It's the best.
That's
So
something
good.
for everyone. Genre stuff too. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh yeah.
So exciting. So before we move on to a different topic, like your writing process and the books themselves, I'm sure all of us are just want to know. Can you talk? What's your love story? You said you met at grad school. Just for all of us, hopeless romance, all of these, goobers as well.
All right. So there is controversy about how
We're meeting outside our first workshop at Emerson College. She
Listen,
thinks it was inside, but I think it was outside.
it wasn't. So we were actually inside the building, outside of our first workshop.
Outside the building.
It's incorrect. Anyway, so it was graduate school, our first class. And I remember I said to him, at first I thought he was so cute. And then I said to him, he was talking to his friend, and I said, isn't it weird that we still get nervous? Because we were both 26.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, isn't it weird we still get nervous for these? And then he said something smart.
But like she was channeling Ann Beatty. I was channeling Haruki Murakami. I thought her stuff was really good, and I was like, I gotta step it up. And little did I know she's thought the same thing.
I thought the same thing about him. And like, honestly, part of the reason I fell in love with him is because I love his writing. I just think
Same.
he's the best.
Yeah.
And then, so it's been 19 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, this year's 19.
Aw,
Yeah, but like
September.
congratulations. That's so
Yeah.
dating, it's
exciting.
been longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can celebrate 20th with the launches for your
Yeah.
that's
We're
wonderful.
gonna renew our vows in Hawaii, and
Or
our
someplace
little
tropical.
girl
Yeah.
already wants to be like the flower girl. She's already picking out her like dress and whatever.
Oh my goodness, that is so cute. It's exactly what I thought and more. I love it. And yes, like I think, with love, it's the best when you can just admire and respect what the other person's good at, like what you were
Yeah.
saying about his writing.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, I feel super lucky that we started out as writing partners and we've just continued.
Mhm.
And it's really like this little dream come true. So I don't know. It's pretty
Well,
awesome.
we're going to get to hear both of you read a little bit from the new books, but first let's talk a little bit about them. Can you, a lot of us tuning in today are already fans, we've read the new books, but for those of us who've come to them for the first time, yes, can you, oh, can you talk a little bit about,
I want you to go.
the plots and characters, maybe each favorite character from each other's works, all that good stuff. But mostly the synopsis and
Okay.
your inspirations too.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about instructions for dancing. So it's my first book in 5 years, and I'll just give a little sort of elevator pitch. So it's about a girl named Evie. She's 17. When we meet her, she's quite cynical, but she wasn't always that way. She used to be like a hopeless sort of romantic with her romance novels, but she's become quite cynical because her favorite couple have gotten divorced, and her favorite couple are her parents. So they've gotten divorced, and she's feeling sort of down on love. The day that we meet her, she's giving all of her romance books away, and then she meets this sort of mysterious stranger at a little free library. And after that encounter, she gets this sort of mysterious power. And the power is whenever she sees a couple kiss, she sees the entire history of their relationship. So she sees like the sort of spoony beginning into the contented middle to the end. And what she takes away from having this power is that all relationships end. So why bother to fall in love? Just leave it alone. And then of course she meets Xavier, like the super cute rock star. He's kind, he's spontaneous, he's brilliant, and he adores her. And so she tries to resist because she knows all relationships end, everything is heartbreak. And so throughout the entire book, what Evie has to figure out is whether or not love is worth it, like worth the potential for heartbreak. So that's the pitch. And then the sort of inspiration behind it is, you know, my last book was 2016, and sort of right after that, both of our families sort of had a lot of health problems. So like my mom was very, very sick. David's dad was also very sick, and then he died. And so throughout that whole period, one of the things I was thinking about is like what love is worth, right? Because we love people so hard, right? Like we just love our people and we just want to hold on to them forever. But, you know, people die, right? We lose them. And my question was, why do we do this to ourselves? Like, why do we put ourselves in this situation? Like, why don't we just sort of hide and, you know, avoid the pain of heartbreak? And so I was asking myself this question for like the last 2 or 3 years, and that is what the book is born out of. It's like an attempt to answer the question of like, you know, is love worth all the stuff? Right?
Well, I think you did it. So
Oh, thanks.
sorry for the health problems, but I'm glad that you were able to.
Thank you.
I was able to inspire your art.
Yeah.
And David, a super fake love song. Thank you.
So Frankly in Love was my first book, and that was like my serious book. It dealt a lot. It started out as a rom-com, but it dealt a lot with family issues and things. And so then I figured for this time around, let's write a fun book. So it's about this nerdy kid who's really insecure, and he meets up with the daughter of a family friend who's new in town, and she's the opposite. She's like super cool, super hip, super confident, and he instantly develops a crush on her and kind of lets her believe that he is actually his missing older brother who's a rock star somewhere off in Hollywood doing his thing. She says, "I love your room," but it's actually his brother's room, and he doesn't stop her. And so it works. Now she thinks he's cool.
And a rock star.
And a rock star, but now he has to live up to his own lie. And so, you know, most of the book is him it's trying to figure out in the geekiest way possible how to be a rock star. And along the way,
it's nerd heaven. This book is nerd heaven.
It's just
so funny.
Like I went heavy on the com and rom-com because I just wanted to write after the year we had, I really wanted to write something funny. But there is everyone in the book is kind of faking it till I make it, including Sonny, who's the protagonist, his parents, who are obsessed with keeping up with the Joneses, and his older brother, who maybe isn't doing so well as Sonny thinks in Hollywood. And so that all kind of comes to a head toward the end of the book. But mostly, it's funny.
It's hilarious.
I'm telling you, the highest compliment I got was Neil Schusterman, who wrote the Side series. He told me to my face, this is the funniest book he read last year. And I was like, I can die now.
Yeah, no, it's very quick, very smart. Yeah. Well, my favorite, and they were quite funny characters. My favorite characters in both were the siblings. I loved Gray and Danny. I thought they were great balances to the main characters, and it's always nice to have a nice sibling relationship in
Yeah.
the books too. So I just wanted to make that comment too. We're gonna look at some audience questions in just a few moments, but first maybe we could hear each of you read a few minutes of your work. So I'm not quite sure who wants to go first. David, you want to go first?
I guess I'm going first. So a couple things you need to know. There's Sunny, is the nerd, and then we have Cirrus, who is the girl he has a crush on. There's also Gunnar Schwinghammer, to be exact. He's the school bully. Milo and Jamal are Sunny's friends, and this is the part of the book where Sunny has just come to school in his brother's cool rocker clothes for the first time, and he's trying on this new persona that he's sort of let Cirrus believe. All right, here we go. Chapter is called Football. Are you ready for a real American lunch at a real American school? I said. I found Cirrus standing on a concrete berm by the outdoor amphitheater, which was already imprinting in my mind as a sacred site of great significance and origin. She observed the rivers of braying teen folk with arms folded and the hard eyes of a desert shepherd. Show me all of your country's secrets, she said with a smile. I was feeling bold, so I held out a hand to help her down. She just slapped me 5 and jumped. I get to sit with a cool kid, she said. I faked a rakish snarl. Come on. I felt the swagger rising within me. I was walking with the mysterious and beautiful new girl who happened to just live down the street, no big deal. My swagger froze and shattered as soon as I glimpsed the lunch area. At the far end were Milo and Jamal glaring up at Gunnar, who, right on cue, snatched away Milo's basket of fries and tipped his sports drink into his tray for good measure. His hairless, gray-skinned sidekick cackled through rotting teeth. Nerd tax. The sight gutted me of all confidence, leaving it to splatter and curdle all over the floor. I began to hyperventilate. Cirrus thought I was cool. She thought I was brave because she thought I was something I was not, because I told her I was someone I was not. If you became friends with someone who turned out to be someone else, did that mean you'd have to start all over again with the real them? Would you even want to? Over here, I said, veering us off course toward a blank wall sealed by planters. I sat down on the ground. Cirrus cheerfully followed, not knowing any better. She did not know this area had no coolness to it whatsoever. How could she? I wished I could rewind time and simply say, this is actually Gray's room, not mine. But time travel had not yet been invented and never would be, no matter how many lazy-brained sci-fi movies fantasized about it without proper peer-reviewed study. This was a stupid, stupid problem, and I kicked myself for having created it. I peered and watched Gunnar saunter away in the distance. Milo poured out his flooded train to the drain in the floor with practiced care. I felt bad that I hadn't been there to help absorb and diffuse the abuse. Instead, I was safe here with Cirrus. It felt selfish of me. Cirrus and I opened our bags and investigated our lunches. Cirrus unwrapped what looked like an al pastor semita sandwich, but on pretzel bread. Quite the twist. I groaned with an almost sexual desire at the sight of it. What is that? An experiment, said Cirrus. My parents let me pick out whatever I want for grocery delivery since it's mostly just me in the house. Anyway, I wind up messing around with food just for kicks. I revealed my lunch. Pita sandwiches filled not with gyros, but leftover bulgogi and dabs of sambal oleg. Lunches were always random slapdash affairs haphazardly assembled with whatever I could find in the refrigerator. But they were always good too. Trade, 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 said Cirrus. We traded. We ate. This is amazing, I said. This is amazing, said Cirrus. And not too wet. I looked at her. I'm not a huge fan of wet food, said Cirrus. Cereal, most soups, tuna-style sandwiches. I'm glad, I said. We definitely have the best lunches out of any of these genetically engineered Philistines, said Cirrus. One person's usual is another person's brand new. A sudden wave of nausea swelled because right now I was very much liking being with Cirrus, and I could tell she was liking being with me, or what she thought was me. So is it considered cool to sit here because Americans aspire to set themselves apart from the rest of the herd, said Cirrus. I saw an ad that said something like that. Americans are brainwashed from an early age to believe that they are blessed children of God with total sovereign autonomy and unlimited individual control over their destinies, no matter what systemic prejudices or disadvantages they might have been born into, which in turn allows their government to forsake all social responsibility and focus on groveling face down in the gutter to let the great immoral capitalistic parasites slither through the diseased streets of the nation's corpus, unimpeded and unquestioned. I said, cool, said Cirrus. Then she broke into cackles. You're weird. Had I gone on and on? I sometimes had a tendency to go on and on. I remembered my outfit. I remembered I was cool. Honestly, I eat here because it's quiet, I said. I don't need to hear a bunch of people screaming about which filter looks better, or which hair makes a candidate more electable, said Cirrus, or how our team needs to score more points than the other guys to win at football, I said. The answer is more. The answer is always more. We cackled together, two crazies holding up a wall.
Oh, that was so good. Yay. And I'm glad I turned off my video. How about because I didn't want to distract him, but I was just like laughing.
It's so funny. I always forget how funny it is.
Very, very good. Well, we're gonna go over to Nicola in just a moment, but it looks like we have a few questions.
Oh, sweet.
So,
We love questions.
wondering if the two authors might collaborate on a novel together in the future.
What do you think, David? Should we collaborate on a novel together?
Maybe we already are.
Maybe we already are.
This thing called life. Oh, very exciting. Maybe they can't say more, but
Maybe we cannot say more because we don't want to get killed by an editor.
Maybe we would love
okay.
to.
That is enough for now. Well, to be continued. What is it like to have a movie created from your book, Nicola, and are there movies in the works, David?
Can I announce yours?
What?
Can I announce David's news?
Sure.
David's book has, Frankly Love has actually been optioned, and fingers crossed, we can say more soon. Fingers.
Very cool.
Yeah, we're crossing all the things. And then for me, yeah, I mean, David has been with me through this entire process. Like, he's seen me cry on sets. It's just been surreal, right? It's just been this amazing experience. We took Penny, who's our little girl, to set, and the first time we were on the Everything set, they were filming a scene on the airplane, and so that both the actors were on the plane, and they started talking, right, saying the words I had written down, and I just like burst into tears. So it's like right there, like in like director's village with like the big headphones on. I was like, and the hubba.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And then my little girl said, why is mama crying? Like, she could not figure it out. And then David said,
It's like tears of joy.
those are tears of joy, honey. And then, so it was like that. And that's what Penny says that still all the time. Like, those are tears of joy, mama. It was, I loved getting to take her to set and show her that you can make art and it can make a difference. It can just be in the world. I mean, there's so many people working on it.
And so many people taking it seriously and really wanting to make sure that it gets told properly. It's like, that's how powerful they are. Stories are just so powerful.
Yeah, and when I was younger, I didn't think that I could make a living writing. It just didn't seem that was something that was possible for me. And I wanted to show her that you could do that, right? Like, you could make art and put it out into the world and tell stories that mean something to you, because I did not know that when I was a kid.
That must have been surreal. Yeah. What a wonderful thing to share with your daughter.
It was the best. I mean, I get teary when I talk about it.
Now she thinks it's normal. I'm like, it's not normal.
Oh my goodness.
She's like,
can't wait to see what she accomplishes. You guys are also artistic in so many other ways. I wish you were still making your jewelry, Nicola. I would buy it.
Oh, you see that? Yeah, I have so much jewelry or gemstones that are unmade in my house. But she's not old enough yet, but I'm gonna teach her how to make it.
Very cool. And I ordered your notebook too, David.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah.
That was so awesome.
Yeah. Can't wait to get it.
Thanks for your business.
Yes. So we have a couple more audience questions, but let's turn over to Nicola so she can read a little bit, and then we'll get more.
Okay. I'm just gonna read from the beginning of the book because I don't want to spoil anything. So let's see. So I'm going to read the entire first chapter. It's called A Better Version of Me. Books don't work their magic on me anymore. It used to be that if I was in a funk or in the barren hinterland between sad and mad, I could just pluck any random one from my favorite shelf and settle into my fuzzy pink chair for a good read. By chapter 3, chapter 4 at the very latest, I'd be feeling better. These days, though, the books are nothing but letters arranged into correctly spelled words, arranged into grammatically correct sentences, and well-structured paragraphs, and thematically cohesive chapters. They're no longer magical and transporting. In a past life, I was a librarian, so my books are arranged by genre. Until I started giving them away, the contemporary romance section was the biggest. My favorite of all time was Cupcakes and Kisses. I pulled it down from my shelf and flipped through it, giving it one last shot to be magical. The best scene is when the no-nonsense head chef and the sexy, constantly brooding line cook with the mysterious past have a food fight in the kitchen. They both end up covered in flour and icing. There's kissing and a lot of dessert-related wordplay. Sugar lips, sweet buns, sticky situations. 6 months ago, this scene would have made me gooey inside. Now, though, nothing. And since the words haven't changed from the last time I read them, I have to admit the problem isn't the book. The problem is me. I close the book and stack it on top of the others I'm giving away. One last trip to the library tomorrow, and all my romances will be gone. Just as I start putting them in my backpack, Mom pokes her head into my room. Her eyes travel a circuit from my face down to the tower of books, up to the 4 empty rows on my shelf, and then back to my face. She frowns and looks like she wants to say something, but then she doesn't. Instead, she stretches out her hand and pushes her phone toward me. "It's your father," she said. I shake my head so hard the braids whip around my face. She jabs the phone my way again. Take it, she mouths. No, 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 I mouth back. I've never seen two moms arguing, but I imagine it would look something like this. She moves out of the doorway and all the way into my room. I have just enough space to dart around her, so I do. I sprint down our small hallway and lock myself in the bathroom. Mom's inevitable knock comes 10 seconds later. I open the door. She looks at me and sighs. I sigh back at her. Most of our communication these days comes in the form of those small exhalations. Hers are frustrated and long-suffering and exasperated and impatient and disappointed. Mine are confused. "Yvette Antoinette Thomas," she says, "how long are you going to keep this up?" The answer to her question, and I think it's a fair one, is forever. Forever is how long I'm going to be angry at Dad. Really, the better question is, why isn't she? She slips the phone back into her apron pocket. There's a dusting of flour on her forehead and some in her short afro, making it look like she suddenly went gray. "You giving away more books?" she asks. I nod. "You used to love them," she says. The way she says it, you think I was setting them on fire instead of donating them to the library. I meet her eyes. It feels like maybe we're having a moment. If she's willing to talk to me about giving away my books, then maybe she's willing to talk about something real, like Dad and the divorce, and how things have been since. "Mom," I begin, but she shifts her eyes from mine, wipes her hands down the front of her apron, and interrupts me. "Danica and I are going to make brownies," she says. "Come down and help us." The baking's new. She started the day Dad moved out of our old house, and she hasn't stopped since. If she's not on shift at the hospital, she's baking. "I'm meeting Martin and Sophie and Cassidy tonight. We're supposed to start planning our road trip," I say. "You spend more time out of the house than in it these days," she says. I never know what to do when she says something like that. It's not a question and not an accusation, but it has a little of both in it. Instead of answering, I stare at her apron. It reads "Kiss the Cook" and has a drawing of 2 enormous red lips smacking. It is true that I'm not home much these days. The thought of spending the next few hours baking with her and my sister Danica fills me not with despair exactly, but something close to it. Danica will be perfectly dressed for the occasion, a vintage-style apron with a matching chef's hat that sits in the middle of her afro poofs. She'll talk about her latest boyfriend, who she's very excited about. Mom will tell gory emergency room stories and insist on playing reggae music, something old school like Peter Tosh or Jimmy Cliff. Or if Danica gets her way, they'll play trip hop while Danica documents the whole thing for social media. They'll both pretend that everything is just completely okay with their family. Everything is not okay. Mom sighs again and rubs her forehead. The flour dust spreads. There's flour, I say, reaching to wipe it away. She dodges my hand. Leave it. It's just going to keep getting dirty anyway. Mom's originally from Jamaica. She moved here when she was 14 with grandma and grandpa. The only time she has a Jamaican accent is when she's nervous or upset. Right now, her accent is slight, but it's there. She turns and goes back downstairs. As I get dressed, I try not to think about our not quite argument, but end up thinking about it anyway. Why was she so upset with me for giving away the last of my romance books? It's like she's disappointed in me for not being the same person I was a year ago. But of course I'm not the same person. How could I be? I wish I were as unaffected by the divorce as she and Danica are. I wish I could bake with them carefree. I wish I could go back to being the girl who thought her parents, especially her dad, could do no wrong, to being the girl who hoped to have a love just like theirs when she grew up. I used to believe in happily ever afters because they had one. I want to go back and unknow all the things I know now, but you can't unknow things. I can't unknow that dad cheated on mom. I can't unknow that he left us all for another woman. Mom misses the version of me that used to love those books. I miss her too. Okay, thanks.
I was entranced. Very good, wonderful. Yeah, and I'm sure all the librarians out there love the shout out to library.
Well, I love librarians too.
Yeah. Something very relatable to a lot of young people out there. Wonderful. I'm so glad that you guys could read. Thank you. We have lots of more questions to go through here on the Q&A. This is a good one. What has surprised you the most from this past 15 months in writing? How do you feel your writing is received in light of how young people's lives have been impacted? And I'm assuming the question is, referring to the pandemic.
Yeah.
You start.
I'll start.
That's a big
so
question.
Yeah. Personally, as an artist, I have to say that the only thing that saved me during the pandemic was writing. So I know a lot of artists were not able to write, but it's the only thing that I could do, right? So I would get up super early and I wrote an entire novel in 6 months, which is the shortest it's ever taken me to write anything ever. So maybe it's terrible. But I wrote it because it was the only time when things made sense, right? And it's the only thing I could control, really. Our little girl was home doing Zoom school. We didn't know what the state of the world was. It was also the summer of George Floyd and all the protests. It was just very chaotic, right? And so that little space of making art was really important to me. I also wrote my story for Blackout during that period. And then I think the other thing to notice is that what saved a lot of people is consuming art, right? How many people just watched movies or read books during that time? I mean, it sort of highlights the importance of art in our lives, right? Making it and consuming it. So yeah, I mean, it was a chaotic year like it was for everyone, stressful in so many ways. Hopefully we're on the mend. I feel like a butterfly.
I mean, I think I'm trying to see what good came out of it. And I think a lot of it really fired up a social awareness in us. We really want to tell our stories, in particular as people of color. And I know that among especially teen readers, there's a heightened awareness of social justice and of your political identity and how it affects society. And but at the same time, there is, I don't know if it's just me, my anecdotal observations, but there's a lot of people who just want comfort food. They
I do. Listen.
we all watched To All the Boys I Loved Before, and it was so sweet and so wholesome. And there's something about that. Like before that, we had Game of Thrones, and now we're watching, you know, teens kiss, and it's like a big deal. And yeah, so you know, so I think that
I
shift is
tried
interesting
it.
too. Yeah, I couldn't.
Yeah, there's
I think-
something about reading and watching, you know, teenagers, and it just
yeah. And it feels to me like sort of a big emotional reset where like we've been through so much trauma this year that we're jolted into being reminded of what's really important, you know, what really, really matters. And it's always the same. It's love, it's friends, it's family. It's about being secure. Yeah. Security and safety.
I hope it sticks.
I hope it sticks too, because I like wholesome stuff.
And did you have the same reaction as Nicola did? Like, was it easier for you to write during this time, David, or not as easy?
It was definitely harder for me. You know, fortunately I had a book that I was revising, that was City of Orange. So like I already, and City of Orange, that book is about this dude who wakes up, the world has ended, and he has no memory of what happened, and he's trying to figure out if his wife and kid are still alive. And so that was like, whoa, I wrote that 5 years ago, and it's like turned out to be a quarantine book.
You're like The Simpsons. Yeah.
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 But I didn't have, like, I got Super Fake out of my system because I needed something really fun and really light and very wholesome. Like there's not a single swear word in that book, for instance. That's how wholesome I wanted to get. And I would like to just keep doing that. It feels good. It feels safe. And I think we could all use a little safety, you know?
Yeah, I think that there definitely needs, that variety is always welcome. Like those wholesome books are always welcome. Yeah, for sure. All right, so which characters do you relate most to in your works? And if you could pick any characters to bring into the real world, who would it be and why?
Interesting. Well, I'll start. So
okay.
I love Xavier from my latest book because he is, first of all, he's a rock star, and I want to be a rock star. So like I can't sing, so I'm the worst. So like no one should let me be in a band. But in my next life, I'm coming back as a rock star.
I heard you like to sing karaoke though.
I do love to sing, and I'm not good, but I love it so much.
I think you're great.
But I would come back. I mean, I love Xavier because he's a rock star. He is really cool. He's sweet. He's spontaneous. He just believes in the world, and he believes in living in the moment, which I struggle with and I want to get better at. And so that's why I think I choose him.
I think I would choose Milo. Milo from Super Fake Love Song. He's one of the trio of friends. There's Sunny, Jamal, and Milo. Milo is this huge dude, but he's scared of everything. And he's also very emotionally astute. I deliberately wrote him as my cure-all for toxic masculinity. I wanted him to be like the most awesome dude ever, who is not afraid to say, I love you, not afraid to say, you look nice today, to his guy friends, and not afraid to hug and apologize and do all that great stuff. So I would love to bring him into real life.
And have you used each other as inspiration for any characters?
All the time. Constantly.
Listen, it's terrible in our house because you know what happens? Like he'll say something funny because he's very funny, and I'll be like, "Dibs! I get to use that line," and he gets so mad. He gets so mad at me, and I'm just like, "Forget it! I said dibs already." And so many of our conversations, I think, end up in the books, right? Just like, especially in The Sun Is Also a Star, there's a lot of philosophical conversations in that one, and that's definitely just us.
Yeah,
like, you know.
There's a lot of us in City of Orange too, but in a more adult way. But still, we do this all the time.
That's lovely. That's so wonderful. And are you planning on writing more with the authors of Blackout? And are you planning on writing more adult fiction, David?
Yeah. So I'm still doing some line edits for City of Orange, so that's going to be out soonish, I guess. But that doesn't mean I would. Next year. But that doesn't mean I don't want to keep writing young adult, because it's like one of my favorite times in life, and you get to be really fun and really sweet, but also really philosophical, like Nikki was saying. And funnily enough, like my thesis for Emerson College it's an anthology of short stories, but almost all the stories had kids that we would consider now middle grade. For some reason, I was really obsessed with the middle grade age period and how scary it was in a lot of ways, and how a lot of your fears are subsumed in superheroes and monsters and haunted houses. And so I might write something there too.
You would do. I would be so excited to read that. I know a lot of folks tuning in would be as well.
I've told him this a million times that he should do that, but okay.
And you have a beta reader in your daughter. And are you going to continue to write with those authors, Nicola?
You know, I would love to. We'll see how we do. You know, like I feel like there are a lot of stories to tell there. And then the book I wrote during the pandemic is an adult book. There is no romance in it, unfortunately.
Wow.
And then we're doing the one together, which is a young adult.
Yeah.
And then I have one question here. What is your work schedule like when you're writing? Especially as co-parents to a young girl, I imagine that must be.
Well, we're doing pretty well until COVID hit, and then suddenly we were running IT and running a homeschool, and I mean not a homeschool, but like a remote school. So everything got thrown up in the air. But we settled on we write in the mornings. Do all your writing in the morning. Do as much as you can until about 2. And then after that, do your admin stuff, because we're both freshest in the morning, most creative in the morning. And in a pinch, we'll get up at 4:30.
Yeah.
And
I was just gonna say, what's morning to you? Like,
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I tend to, especially when I'm first drafting, I tend to get up at 4:30, like more than you do, because I'm so free in the morning, and there's no emails coming in from publishing at 4:30 a.m.
everyone's asleep.
So yeah, I definitely tend to write really early, and then our little girl gets us about 7:30, and then like right now we get ready. She's in camp, like a day camp this year, and so usually he drops her off where I do. We're back home by 8:30. We'll write until like 2 or 3, and then we'll do like the author side of. So like I feel like there's being a writer, which is actually writing, and then being an author, which is all the other stuff that you have to do, like sort of interviews or
correspondence and events like this.
Right. So like those are 2 different like things. So yeah, and then around 5 we're done, and we do it all again.
family time.
Yeah.
Is there I'm seeing a question about sequels.
Sequels are tricky because people ask, especially for her, like everything, you should make a sequel or Sunstar.
That one, yeah.
And they don't understand that they are together by the end of those books. If you're gonna have a sequel, there's only one way to go, and that's ripping them apart again.
Like especially for everything. I was like, Maddie has been through a lot, you guys. We don't want her to go through any more.
Yeah, but I know with version 0, a lot of people have asked for a sequel for that. I'm like, that actually seems viable because it's more of a thriller. But people have asked like about companion novels too, taking place in the same sort of neighborhood. Like they would love to see Sunny and Frank from Frankly in Love like somehow get together and become friends or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, I could see that maybe.
Well, I mean, if there's a story, like I have an idea for a sequel to The Sun Is Also a Star, so we shall see. Like, but it's like percolating in the back of my head. So there's something there, but there's nothing for everything. It's done.
Well, I'm going to take one more audience question. I think that's a good segue because I see a question about, where you generate your ideas. It sounds like your family and the world, the current moment has certainly inspired. Any other ways that you kind of generate these stories?
I mean, the thing I always say, especially to younger writers, is carry a notebook with you. I mean, that helps me. If something occurs to me, I write it down. If I keep going back to it and fleshing it out, it usually becomes something. Like a short story, it could become a book, it could become like a really terrible poem. But like I just keep it with me. Like I always have that notebook with me. I think that's that's important. And then sometimes it's just out of nowhere. Like I wish I could give a really sort of definitive answer to this, but sometimes it's a matter of the things you've consumed and like something you saw out the window and suddenly there's a new idea in your head.
Yeah, and I like to write the books that I would love to read. So if you have a particular itch to scratch, a superhero book for people who hate superhero books, or something that you would like to see that you feel is missing in the media universe, go for it.
But like from the heart though, like not just like an intellectual exercise.
Oh,
like,
totally, yeah.
Something like you
It
want.
has to be personal, and you know that you want to write it when you can't stop, thinking about it. And I take notes on my watch all the time while I'm driving or whatever, and that's like this fossil record of what I'm interested in. And when I start seeing patterns emerge, I'm like, okay. And I keep this huge, endless, doc file with just stored
On your
ideas.
watch?
Oh no, then I move them onto my laptop and then I just flesh them out a little bit.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, he'll be like, hey Sarah, remind me of blah, 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 and he'll talk. And then
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm not that text. Yeah. Very cool. Gosh, this hour went so fast. It's been such a pleasure.
Oh my gosh, wow.
I know. I'm just gonna leave with probably what I think is the most the question I'm most eager to hear you guys speak to. Pretty relevant, and you've kind of touched on it a little bit already, so any parting words would be appreciated. You're both contributed immensely to the We Need Diverse Books movement with your time and your works, and now the Joy Revolution, and your novels and other artistic pursuits, and even your instincts as parents to a young girl, from what I've read and just hearing you talk today, seem to be commonly rooted in a desire to create harmony and remind us of the important things and rightly provide a voice for underrepresented people, and themes of prioritizing your dreams and leading into vulnerability pervade your writing. So what advice do you have to the young people tuning in who are who are rooting for harmony themselves? They're trying to make sense of the past year, they're trying to make sense of embarking into adultdom. Do you have any specific advice for them as they're looking to make a difference in their world with their own artistic pursuits, or even the grown-ups tuning in might be trying to do the same thing? Kind of a big question.
No, I love that
Yeah,
question.
that's-
I love that question. It's a great question.
We ask ourselves that question all the time.
Yeah.
And it's finding hope in a really tough time. We like to remind each other that the world is made up of people, and they're just people. And some people are extraordinarily kind and generous, and some people are extraordinarily selfish and careless. And if you have enough power, then that can change the world this way or that. The important thing to know is that everyone has the potential for that power. And so that goodness you can use that power and change the world for good if you want to. And if you're a human being, you can achieve that goal. That's sort of like the general rule, since we're all just people anyway. We've seen behind the scenes of so many things at this point, like how shows are made, how movies are made, how books are made, and we know it's just all people making the culture. These don't come out of a giant faceless factory. It's people deciding what's worth talking about and what we value, and what we should strive for. And all that stuff is valid, and you're a part of it. We're not spectators. We don't have to be.
Right. I mean, I think one thing to notice is that, like David was saying, we're just people, right? Like my first drafts are bad, but I'm really good at revising, right? And if you want to make a change, you have to just sort of buckle down and try to do it. But sort of getting away from all right, like, you only have the one life, right? I think we've all noticed in this past year in 2020 that everything changes like that, right? You don't get any do-overs. This is it, right? So be good and be kind, and and especially to like the young people and people of color out there. I think America is so good at stereotyping and so good at putting people into little boxes, right? And saying you should be like this and you should do this. And that's nonsense, you know? Be
Yeah.
who you are. Don't hurt people. Be kind, be good, make a difference. It's just
Yeah.
do it. You only have the one shot. Like I promise you, like everyone has regrets, right? Some things you don't have to have regrets about.
But I think that the best way to navigate those emotions is through awareness and go to therapy, go see a mental health physician, and it'll train you to become more aware of why you are reacting the way you're reacting. And while you're at it, read the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, so you can be aware of the political power forces that structure our society. So that anytime you see injustice or you see something that's kind of weird, you can then be able to analyze it with your awareness and see what's really going on. And that'll force you to always stay laser focused on what's important, which is our humanity.
Right. And we're all humans. Most of the people are good. Most of the people will do the right thing if they know what the right thing is. I firmly believe that. I am absolutely optimistic, and I do really believe that most people are good. And so you got to do it then. You have to be good, right? Be good, be kind.
Yeah.
What a way to end. Thank you so much. No, seriously, I think we're all gonna unplug from our work day and our day in general and just say that was really refreshing and interesting and inspiring. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having
Again,
us.
one more time, the new book's Instructions for Dancing and Super Fake Love Song. You can find out more about David and Nicola on their websites, nicolayoon.com, davidyou.com. Thank you again to Penguin Random House. Bobby Benzer here from Cats at Baker and Taylor. Thank you so much. Happy summer and happy reading. Thank you.
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.